Welcome to the Fierce as Fuck podcast. I'm your host, Amanda King, and I'm here to teach anybody who wants to fucking listen how to have the audacity to say fuck it to societal standards and live their most authentic life. This podcast is dedicated to bringing sexual conversations from behind closed doors onto the main fucking stage. Because sex, masturbation, squirting, guess what? It's all fucking normal. And by bringing these conversations to the forefront, we help people feel less alone in this world. We help them feel safe. We help them gain their power back, step into their confidence, and have the ability to express themselves authentically as fuck in this world. Because it takes fucking audacity to be your truest self. And we have boatloads of audacity up in this bitch. So let me ask you this. Are you ready for some epic shit? Hello, everybody. So I think it was Sunday yesterday of this week, I put a poll up on Instagram and Facebook saying, hey guys, like hit me with your questions. I'm going to do an entire podcast episode dedicated to your questions. And it was astronomical, the amount of questions that I received about anal sex, not even just from that specific post, but this week in general. There have been so many questions that I have been asked about anal sex. And I believe it's because it's not really spoke about a lot. And a lot of people look at mainstream porn and they think to themselves, that's what realistic anal sex is. And it's not at all. And so I want to go through, I guess, some, not statistics, but some anal sex facts. If you are a beginner, kind of what you should start doing if you want to prep yourself for anal sex, the prep work behind anal sex, because yes, there is lots of prep work, and just overall how we make this a little less taboo, because it shouldn't be something that is taboo. But we also want to discuss the fact that if you're not comfortable doing it, don't fucking ever do it. No one ever should be pressured into any type of sexual relationship. So I'm going to go through all of that, and maybe a little bit about communicating with your partner if you want it, and how to handle if they don't. So let's dive into it. Some facts, I guess, about anal sex. So in a study that I was reading, it said with anal sex, 100% of men are able to orgasm with anal sex. And this is because of the prostate gland. And that same study said about 94% of women can achieve orgasms through anal sex. When I looked at that statistic, I was like, that seems really freaking high. And of course, this is only from one study. When you look at different studies, it's all going to vary all of the time. But seeing that number and that statistic so high made me think, okay, well, there are probably more women out there having anal sex and experiencing anal sex, but they feel ashamed, or they feel guilty, or they feel like it's something that they can't talk about because it's not as, I guess, quote unquote mainstream, which I wouldn't even say that, as regular like vaginal and penile sex. And so with anal sex, the biggest fucking misconception, that a lot of people have when they are starting to think about anal sex is, one, jumping right into anal sex. Just jumping right into it. And what I mean by that is not preparing your body for penetration, not really doing kind of the, I guess, pre-workout in a way that you should do before experiencing full penetration anal sex. And number two, literally getting right into it again, where people think because of porn that anal sex is something that can just happen in the heat of the moment, right? It is something that is like, oh, well, we're having missionary, or we're doing cowgirl, or we're doing doggy style, and I want anal sex, so I'm just going to go right ahead and fucking do it. No, my friends, because what happens with a misconception of anal sex when people think that there isn't any prep work and that you can just jump into it during the heat of the moment in sex, messes happen. And I'm not going to elaborate on that. You should know exactly what I'm talking about. If you don't, one of the movies that I watched growing up, Zack and Miri Make a Porno. If you've never seen the movie, there is an anal sex scene in that movie where the woman is constipated before having anal sex. And after anal sex, when the man pulls out, there is a mess. If you haven't seen it, go ahead and Google it. Watch the scene, because that is something that could realistically happen during anal sex if you do not do the proper prep work ahead of time. It is not something that you can just jump into willy-nilly and not expect something like that mess to possibly happen, because there is a good possibility that it could happen. And I truly believe that women shy away from anal for a few reasons. One, they're afraid to make that mess. But once again, with the proper prep work, it won't happen. Number two, they've had bad past experiences with partners who did not do the research when it came to anal sex. And so they didn't really know what they were doing, because they were just taking it off mainstream porn where the guy just spits on the girl's asshole and puts his whole penis in there. And then they think that they can turn around and do that to someone who's never experienced anal sex before and just use their spit as lubrication, and all of a sudden everything's going to turn out all right. And it doesn't. And so anal sex becomes very painful for partners, which basically traumatizes them and makes them never want to try it again, because of the fact that it was not done properly the first time. So let's talk a little bit about the prep work that needs to be done with anal sex, because this is what doesn't get spoken about often. If you are going to have anal sex, you are going to need to clean the pipes. Basically, you are going to need to either take a laxative or an enema before anal sex. Once again, to clean your system out in order to ensure that there are no messes. Could there still be a little bit of mess even if you do that? Absolutely. And that's something that you and your partner both need to know going in, and being able to communicate, so that if something like that happens, no one feels embarrassed and no one feels like awkward. I had a woman on what was it, Snapchat, messaged me and say that her and her significant other had tried anal sex for the very first time. They didn't really do a lot of the research. She didn't do any of the anal prep. And then it felt good. And then when he pulled out, there was a mess. And the boyfriend did not handle it very well. He got really awkward and he kind of made a big deal about it. Well, both should have done more research, right? Especially on his part. If you are a partner who is the one asking for anal sex, first you need to do the fucking research. Listen to this podcast. Listen to this episode where I'm going to tell you the prep work, right? Number two, if an accident does happen during it, you need to be okay with that. You should not make your partner feel any awkwardness because of that. You should be fully aware of what could happen the second you walk in. Number three, if you are someone who is pushing anal and refuses to get pegged, stop pushing anal, because you should not be asking from your partner that you're not willing to receive yourself. And it's not fair to put that pressure on your partner for anal sex when you aren't willing to step outside of your comfort zone and possibly get a prostate massage or have anal play or be pegged by your partner. That's not fair. If you're going to ask your partner to step out of their comfort zone and try something new, you should be willing to do it as well. So back to anal prep, you're going to need to take an anal enema, or you're going to need to take laxatives at least a day before you know that you are going to have anal sex. You want to have a bowel movement before you have anal sex. Then there is anal douching. Same thing that you've heard with vaginal douching, anal douching. It's the same thing. Basically, what you want to do is you want to clean out the pipes. You want to make sure it's as clean as possible in there, because feces goes through there. And guess what? Feces hold bacteria. And so we want to make sure that it is safe for both partners involved. So you're going to have to douche yourself. Number 2 or 3, I don't know what number I'm on. Anal sex should be taken very slowly, and you should have lubricants and condoms, right? When you are having anal sex, your spit is not enough lubrication. And also, during anal sex, there can be tears. in the muscle and the tissue back there. And so if you spit on it and the bacteria from your mouth gets onto your penis and your penis causes a tear, it could cause a bacterial infection or something along those lines in the anus. So do not use your fucking spit. Do not use your spit. If you want to eat her out, toss her salad, whatever fucking term you want to use beforehand to get her in the mood, to get her prepped, to get her ready to go, great. Wipe her down, have a clean wipe or a towel present, wipe her down, and then use lubricant. Now, I don't know what specific lubricant works the best. I know people who use water-based lubricants. I know people who use silicone-based lubricants, and I have not had any of them complain about any of them. So do your research on what lubricant works best for you, especially if you have allergies or you're sensitive to certain lubricants. Make sure that your lubricant works for you. Now, when you are going to have anal sex, first and foremost, prep the area with lots of lubrication. Prep your penis with lots of lubrication, and then take it extremely freaking slow. Extremely slow. Start to insert the tip a little bit. Now, this is where communication is going to be key for both parties involved. Because if a woman or a man has never had anal sex before, or they've never been pegged before, it could cause a little pain, right? A little discomfort. So you need to be able to communicate to your partner, hey, this is getting too uncomfortable, right? Never push anal sex. And what I mean by that, push it during anal sex. And what I mean by that is if he gets the tip in and that's all you can take, then that's all you fucking take that session, right? It doesn't have to be the full enchilada the very first session you take it. It may take a few tries to get your body used to the size, the shape, the feeling, right? And so I would suggest not just going full enchilada into it the first time. As the person receiving or the partner receiving, you have to communicate to your partner when to stop, what feels good and what doesn't. You have to be vocal as hell during this session. So if you are someone who is not naturally vocal during sex, this is an area you're going to need to work on, because you have to be vocal during it. Because like I said, if you push it, you can cause damage back there. And that's the last thing that we ever fucking want in this entire world. So if he's putting it inside of you and it starts to hurt, you need to say, enough. That's enough. And as the partner giving it, you need to back the fuck off the second your partner says that's enough. Do not try to push in further. Do not try to pressure them. Don't. That's so fucked up and so mean and so wrong on so many levels. And so if you have a partner who tries to push it, tell them to stop. Literally pull it out and say, knock it off. We need to have this discussion. This is not okay. And I will never do this again. If you ever try that with me again, you've got to hold your fucking boundaries so hard during this, no pun intended, because your safety during anal sex is fucking key. It is literally the one thing you need to focus on more than anything in the entire world. So being able to sit here and say, that feels good. You can go a little further, a little, take it slow, right? If you don't want him taking control of pushing in, then you kind of take control of like leaning back into it, right? So you can say to him, stay still. I'm going to push into you so that I can control when it feels enough or when it doesn't feel enough. Use a lot of lubricant, more than you actually think. It's going to vary depending on person, but the number you think in your head, add more. Because what you want is you want the penis to be able to push in or glide in, I think is the best way to say it. It needs to glide in. There will be a little resistance, right? But you never want it to be painful. Extra lube will make it not entirely painless, but less painful. Once again, communication is fucking key. Once again, prep work is key. Make sure you have douched, make sure you have taken that laxative, make sure you have taken that enema at least the day before, that morning if you can, if not the day before, to clean your system out. Use condoms as much as possible. Of course, if you are with a continuous partner, like a lifelong partner, or you've been with them for a really long time, you don't have to use them. If you don't want, that's your personal preference, it's not my place to say anything or judge. But if you were trying this on multiple partners, you absolutely should be using condoms. Absolutely. And so during this session, as the partner receiving, don't be afraid, like I said, to say, this feels good, this doesn't feel good. Slow down, speed up. This is where you need to be so in charge of your body and your boundaries. Now, after anal sex, when he pulls out, there is always a possibility of a small mess. That is why you should have wipes, and that is why you should have towels near you, just in case there is. Now, if there is nothing to be embarrassed about. If you both did your research, if you both knew this was a possibility, then if it happens, just let it go. Clean up and just be done with it. Don't get all shy about it. Don't make your partner feel weird about it. Just, it's a mess. There are messes during sex, right? And so you have to communicate to your partner, and you should both be aware that that is always going to be a possibility. Not as much if you do the prep work. If you don't do the prep work, oh yeah, you can almost 1,000% expect a mess. And so if a small mess does happen, let it go. If you are the partner giving and you notice the mess, clean it up. Don't say a fucking thing. Walk away, throw it in the wash, do what you need to do. Don't say anything. If you are the partner receiving and this happens, it's okay. It happens, right? You don't ever see this in porn. Why? Because they do the prep work and they don't show the prep work, right? Because it's not sexy. Prep work for anal sex is not sexy. Douching is not sexy, right? Taking laxatives ahead of time is not sexy. So in porn, you see them go from like literally vagina to anus or anything along those lines, right? Mouth to anus, whatever it is. And there's never a mess. Well, trust me, they've done their prep work, so that's why there's not a mess. So ensure that you do the prep work. If there is a mess, make sure that you just make your partner feel okay in that moment. Because as someone who is receiving anal sex, that person is going to be embarrassed that it happened, right? They're going to be embarrassed. Let's be real here. It's an embarrassing thing when a mess does happen, but they shouldn't be embarrassed because you both should know this going in. And so if it happens, just clean it up. Don't say a fucking thing if you're the partner receiving or giving, and then be done with it. Communicate after anal sex. Communicate after you're done. Sit down and talk about it. Say, hey, like this, it felt good until here. I think we should try this next time. The more open you are to your partner during this time, and especially after the heat of the moment, when it's all done, when you have time to kind of sit and reflect, you're able to give them feedback. You're able to figure out, well, that didn't work. Well, I think if I lean down this way, it might help. Maybe if I drop to my elbows rather than being kind of like, what is it, tabletop? Like you guys can talk to each other to make it more comfortable for the next session. And on the next session, do all of the prep work again, and then see if he could go a little further. Once again, if it hurts or feels utterly painful, stop, and stop 20 times more. And just stop. Like I will say, I do not want you to get any tears in the tissue within there and get anything else that like seriously medical things that can happen. So just ensure that communication is key. Lots of fucking lube is key, and just never, ever pushing it. It may take you a few sessions to be able to fully take your partner in. That's okay, right? We're not rushing here. This isn't what is it? This isn't a sprint. This is a fucking marathon. If this is something you actively want to start adding into your repertoire of sex positions, you need to be okay with the fact that it may take a little bit to get in there fully. Now, when I was talking about at the beginning, jumping just fully into anal penetration, if you've never had anal sex before, is not what I would suggest. Can you do it? Absolutely. It's your body. It's your choice. If you feel that you can handle it, if you feel comfortable enough communicating, okay, go live your best life. I'm not here to fucking judge. This is just my personal opinion on things from talking to people and just experiences in general. If you are thinking about anal sex, before you jump fully into anal sex, I would suggest starting anal play first. You can start it with yourself first, or you can start it with your partner first. So, for example, if you are starting anal play during a masturbation session where you are touching yourself, maybe take your vibrator with a little lube and start using the vibrator on your anus. You can have two different vibrators. You can do a clit stimulator and then have a small, maybe even purchase a butt plug that vibrates without fully putting it in, and just get your anus used to the sensation of something being around there, right? Because during anal sex, the more tense you are, the more likely it is to be painful, right? So that's why I say if you don't want to do it or experiment with it, just don't. Because if you feel forced to do it or you feel like you're obligated to try it, you are going to go into the session and you are going to be so tense and so scared. And it's okay to be a little nervous at first. Like, it's always a little nerve-wracking when it's like experiencing something for the first time. It's going to be a little nerve-wracking. But if you don't want to do it and you're feeling coerced or you're feeling forced, first off, that's a whole other fucking thing. Absolutely not. But if you yourself are like, oh, I'm going to try it, and then you get really fucking scared beforehand, you're going to tighten up, right? Your muscles are going to tighten up. Your anus is going to tighten up. So it may be harder for him to get it fully in there because you can't relax during the session. You have to be able to kind of breathe through it, right? You have to relax your muscles and relax your body, because if you don't, you're going to tense up and then it's not going to be able to go anywhere. And so if you don't want to do it, don't fucking do it. 100 times I will say this during this podcast test episode. I do not care if I'm repeating myself. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. If you do want to do it, start with anal play. So during masturbation, as you were using a clit stimulator, take a vibrator and just vibrate the outside of the anus with some lubrication. This is going to prep your body to get used to the sensation of being down there. If you don't want to use a vibrator, you can always use your fingers as well, right? Putting lube on your fingers, not spit, lube, and just circling the anus, like the outside area. The outside area is chock full of nerve endings. And so even just stimulating it that way will cause extra arousal. It will cause extra feelings. It will cause extra orgasms. You can have a full anal orgasm without ever having anal penetration. 1,000%. So during masturbation, have a toy there and just start experimenting with having something down there, having the feeling of the vibrations down there, seeing how it feels, right? If you want to, take the toy, add a shit ton of lube, and if you're ready, start trying to insert the toy little by little. And like I said, this can be over the span of a lot of masturbation sessions, right? This isn't going full enchilada the whole time. This could be, I'm just going to insert the tip, feel the vibrations, see how it feels, feel the intensity, feel if I could take more. If I feel like I can take more, I'm going to wait for the next session. And then I'm going to take a little more. And you can do this with your partner as well during sex, right? Or during oral. Have them start playing with you on your anus. Have them start rubbing it as they're licking your clit. Have them start rubbing it as they're, especially if like they're doing you from, that's so classy terms right there. If they are positioned behind you, so doggy style or reverse cowgirl, have them play with it. Or even if you're on top, they can still reach their hands around and play with the outside of your anus. So have them start there. Then during sex, have them start kind of inserting their fingers into your anus with lots of lubrication. That is not spit. Lots of lubrication. Do not allow him to stick his fingers in his mouth and then stick his fingers in your ass. No, lubrication is key. Have lubricant available. So have him or her start playing with that area a little bit more during partner related sex. That way you can once again start getting used to the feeling there, starting getting used to it being comfortable. And then every session, try inserting something a little bit more. There are plenty of toys that you can get that are anal related, such as anal beads, anal plugs, right? All of them come in different sizes, different shapes, different vibration modes. What you want to make sure, first off, if you're going to do a butt plug, that it is actually has a plug at the end, meaning it has a stopper, right? Because it can, like, if you are using it and you're fully inserting it, that stopper is going to stop it from getting lost up in there, because that can happen. So make sure that you buy a butt plug with a stopper at the end of it. Almost 99% of them do. If you're going to experiment with anal beads or anything along those lines, lubrication is key. That is more for, I would say, an advanced person. At the beginning, focus on fingers, focus on maybe vibrating toys on the outside. And then each session, whether it's partner related or single serve, I was going to say single serve session, masturbation session, start inserting it a little bit at a time, so that you feel more comfortable at the time of play with your partner. And I would even say, if you do have a partner, start with yourself. That way, like, even during masturbation, like, there was a statistic that I read the other day that said during masturbation, it takes 8 minutes for women to orgasm, and it takes during sex on average 14 minutes. Why? Because women feel the most safe and comfortable with their bodies. They know exactly what to touch where. So I say this all the time. You cannot communicate to your partner that what you like and what turns you on if you don't figure that out first. That's why I'm such a, I don't know. I'm just such a, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. I just think masturbation is huge, right? So if you are thinking of doing anal play with a partner, start anal play first by yourself, so that you can tell your partner, hey, I've kind of been playing with this. This is what I like. So then once again, it's not you and your partner trying to figure it out at the same time, because that can be super awkward, especially if you haven't been with someone for a really long time and this is something you're trying out with a relatively new partner. Knowing your own body and what it is capable of before the session is going to be huge, so that when you are in that partner session, you can say, hey, listen, I like when I'm on top and you are like playing with around my anus. I don't want you to go fully in. I just want you to tickle it. I want you to rub it. I want you to stick a vibrator back there. I want you to just play, but please don't insert it. I'm not ready for insertion yet, right? That isn't within every ounce of your right. Is anal sex safe? Was a question I got. Yes, absolutely, if it's done properly. If you are concerned about safety as well, condoms are going to be key, because there can be tears. So there can be blood, right? Just like vaginal sex, there can be tears in there, right? There can be bacteria in there. And so you want to make sure it's safe. Do all of the prep work, like I said, religiously. It needs to be just part of it. Communication is key as well, right? So if your partner wants to try it and you want to try it, you need to communicate, okay. And as much as everyone's like, I love spontaneity. Okay, this is not something you can be spontaneous with, peeps. Sorry. This is something you're going to have to plan, right? Allow every other position possible to be something spontaneous. You guys are at a winery and you want to go fuck in a bathroom, go right ahead. Do not do anal sex in the bathroom if you were not prepared. So sitting here and saying, okay, I want to have anal sex on Thursday, so I'm going to do all the prep work Thursday morning or Wednesday evening so that I am ready. So like, I would take the laxative Wednesday evening to clean out the system, then doing the enema or the douche the morning of, right? And then having sex later on that afternoon. Be cognizant of what you eat that day. Upset stomach leads to messes. I've had a woman message me about a chili dog incident. Like, y'all, be conscious of what you're eating that day, because it can cause stomach upset. Like, it's the GI tract. It's all connected. And then make sure that you're actually doing the prep work and the planning. Have condoms, have towels, have wet wipes, right? Take a shower afterwards if you need to. Take a shower before. Do whatever you want to feel good, powerful in that moment. buy a really good fucking lube and communicate. If you are thinking of doing anal sex, try anal play first. Then move your way up to anal sex. Anal sex shouldn't be so taboo. It never was. Well, it always was, but like, I love Kinky History on TikTok. And if you go and watch her stuff, I think her name is Esme Louise. She literally talks about how anal sex has been here for literal centuries, but now it's considered more taboo, right? But I do believe we are moving more into kind of a sex positive world. And so it shouldn't be as taboo as it is. If you want to try it, go try it. It's okay, right? Try it. And if you hate it, don't ever fucking do it again. Right? If you don't want to try it and you're listening to this podcast episode and you're like, not in a million fucking years, don't ever do it. If you are a man who is listening to this episode and thinking, I wonder how it would feel to be pegged. I wonder how it would feel like for a prostate massage. I wonder how it would feel to use a butt plug. Don't be afraid to communicate that to your partner and go and do the research, right? And someone actually just asked on my Instagram, where do I do the research? Literally Google anal sex prep, Google pegging prep, Google it and go look for a credible source. A lot of times I tend to look at, and this is me personally, I tend to look at women run sites. So if I did a partnership with Bellessa, was in December. And so they are a female run company that creates sex toys and porn for women. And so if they have a article on anal sex prep, which they do, I will go and read that article. I consider that a credible source for anal prep. Why? Because it's women talking about it. I'm a woman who's going to be experiencing it. I want to hear it from a woman's point of view, a woman's perspective. So don't be afraid to go and Google it. Do the research. Porn is not research. Okay. I'm going to say that one more time. Porn is not research. It's not credible research because you are not seeing the whole thing. You are seeing the act happening and not the literal almost day and a half prep work that's going into that one scene. And so I hope this podcast episode helped you. I hope this makes you feel more safe, more empowered, more confident in order to explore something that shouldn't be as taboo as it is. And if you have any other questions, if I don't know the answers, I will definitely try and help you find the answers. And if your partner, I was going to sign off. No, we're going to stop here. So if your partner does not want to do anal sex, do not pressure them. Do not pressure them. If your partner is looking to explore anal sex or is open to explore anal sex, great. Sit down, have the conversation of this is what it entails. This is everything we need to know. Are you still interested in doing it? And talk about what happens if there is a mess. Create some procedure, right? If you were the person receiving it and you don't want to know if there is a mess, then let your partner know. I don't want to know. Like take it, get it out of there. I don't want to know, right? Set your boundaries with anal sex. I'm going to be in control. I'm going to tell you how much I want, how little I want, right? Don't be afraid to talk to your partner about this, but never, ever, 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 ever pressure your partner. And like I said at the beginning, there are so many women who message me and say, I've had anal sex a few times. I fucking hate it. Then never do it again. But also ask yourself, did the times when you did have it, was your partner and you, like, did you guys do the research or did you just jump into it? Did you use lubricant or did you use spit, right? Or did you use your own natural lubrication? Still need more lube, guys. Still need more lube. So ask yourself, okay, is it really the experience itself or was it the partner? And if it's both, then never fucking do it again. Never. No one is forcing you. No one is pressuring you. No one is saying you have to try it. And if your partner is, tell them to back the fuck off. Honestly, tell them that it is something that you are not comfortable with and that you won't be comfortable with. And yes, anal sex, I feel like a woman messaged me and she said, I feel like anal sex is glorified by men. I think she used a different word, but we'll use the word glorified. And that they're obsessed with it. That's the word that she uses, that every man's obsessed with anal because it's considered taboo. I I honestly, in my personal experience, agree with her, right? I have as well been with multiple partners, and every single one of them has asked about anal sex, right? I think it is something that more men want to explore because of mainstream porn. I do think the tabooness, quote unquote, of it makes it more appealing to men as well. But as whoever man, woman, person who is receiving it, it is always your fucking call. Never let a partner try to make you feel like it's theirs. It's yours. And there are women who have commented that they've been with partners who literally they would be crying and they would still be doing it. That's when you've got to own, like, ladies, gentlemen, partners, people, you need to stop in that moment when that happens. You need to stop. That's literally, if you say stop right now, no more, and they continue, that is literally rape. You could call the fucking cops on them in that minute. You have to be able to stand your boundaries and say no. And no one should ever be pressuring you into doing anything that you do not want to do. So that is how I'm going to sign off on this episode. If you found this helpful, I'm so happy. Share it with people. Let's make this a little less taboo. If you have any other questions, I'm always on IG, on TikTok, Amanda King on IG, on TikTok. I am, what am I on TikTok? Audacious AF, I think is my new TikTok handle. Feel free to reach out with questions. Like I say 1,000% of the time, I cannot answer everybody's questions, but I will try to help if I see it and I have the answers. And if not, I will try to point you in the right direction. I love you guys so much. Thank you for being here, and thank you for discussing this with me. Thank you so much for listening to the Fierce as Fuck podcast. And some parting words for you today. Remember this: no matter how hard society pushes you down, no matter how many times you fall, as long as you get the fuck back up, they can never stop you. You are unfuckable with. You will win. Don't allow this world to dictate how you show up in it. Don't allow society to make you bend the knee. Instead, make them bend theirs. And don't forget, if you like what you heard, go on to iTunes and Spotify and leave your girl a review.